Hello, everyone. Welcome to Abnormal Investigations. Boy, we have a good guest on tonight. We got Travis Carpenter here tonight. We're going to be talking to him. We're going to be talking about the Sasquatch Awareness Project, which I'm pretty excited to talk about that. I was going over a few of the things that he had on there, and man, it really hit home with me that some of the things that they went through, especially Scott, was a lot of things that we went through even as a child, and my mom and them when they were a child. So it really was like it was really connecting. uh we're going to have a no doubt very interesting show. It's always interesting whenever we have Travis with us, but I think it's going to be a great time. I think we're going to be able to at least connect the dots on a few things. I was noticing the other night while listening to it, there was so many things that was just going together. I mean, it was really weird to me. I don't know how to explain it. It was kind of like Travis lived with me and my family, because some of the things that they talked about was exactly what we went through. And I was like, that is so strange. How did because the way, I guess, the way that these things operate, they're the same everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and throw Scott and Jesse in, and we'll get Travis right in here in just a second.
Hello, everybody.
If my computer, there they are. I've got a backup tonight if something happens to this
Hello,
computer.
everybody. Hello, Michael, Jesse.
Hello.
Can
I
you
got
hear me
my
tonight?
iPad fired up tonight, so if something
Yes.
goes, can you
All
hear
right.
us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
All right.
So we should be good. I got my iPad too, so if the computer goes down, then I got a backup.
Sounds good.
I might have a little bit of a delay, I'm guessing, when I talk to you all, so we'll have to. All right. And y'all are able to hear me, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight, for supporting us, guys. It means a lot to us. So we appreciate y'all showing up in the chat. If just to let everybody know, if I miss anybody's questions tonight or anything, I'm going to be focused on a whole lot of notes that I have here that I've went over, and so I'm going to be looking at a lot of different things. So I'm not ignoring you on purpose. At the end of the show, as always, we'll take your questions if we miss them throughout the show. But it's hard to dive into some of this stuff and try to watch chat, because I do want to talk about a few things. Hello, Wolf Lady. You said you wasn't going to make it. Now you're grounded. But
Hello.
I think we're going to have a really good show. I think I think it's going to be good. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Travis on. That way we can go ahead and kick this off.
Hey, everybody. What's going on?
Hello, Travis.
Hi, Travis.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Jess. How are y'all today?
Doing great.
Good. And Mike, how are you, brother?
Just sitting around trying to stay warm. Well, it got cool.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, sorry about this, Jess and Scott. Me and Mike got to kind of, bump fists a little bit. Thank you so much to your Oklahoma Sooners. They did their best to keep Alabama out of the playoffs, and I just don't understand how they're still in. But thank you for that.
Yeah, I know they kind of blew it this year.
Oklahoma did good. I giggled like a schoolgirl watching Oklahoma beat Alabama. It was amazing. It was incredible. So I got to hand it to your Sooners.
I couldn't believe they did it either. I thought they was going to get stomped in that game. Really.
Hey man, you just don't waltz into Norman, Oklahoma, and walk out with a win, buddy. It ain't no joke there.
Yeah, football's their life down there, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I really appreciate you guys, having me on. I'm honored. You say you got notes written down. I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta try to get stuff ready. So I've got the books, and I'm like, oh, remember what to say. No.
It's really just things that whenever I went through the awareness project, there was so many things that really hit home. It was like, wow. And then, it makes your mind start turning. And I got to thinking, I was like, the email that your dad had sent me saying, because whenever I first started this, I didn't know anybody. I had no idea of anybody in the cryptic field. I was just, I told the stories what I did, and it took off. And I got an email from your dad one day, and I was like, Scott Carpenter, who's Scott Carpenter? And everybody's like, oh my God, you don't know who Scott Carpenter is? And I'm like, no. And so he sent me this email, and he's like, I watched some of your stuff, and I think you have found something that we've been looking for. Can we talk? And I was like, sure. I said, when do you want to talk? And he said, how about like 3 days? I said, yeah, that works for me, And then the next day, your dad had passed away right after the email. So I never got the chance to.
Man, I need to go back through those emails and figure out kind of what he was looking for. And I apologize that I don't know. And I feel like I fumbled the football there on not knowing.
Do you think it was the moon phases, maybe, Mike? Travis?
I don't know. I put a lot of thought into it, and I don't know if it was the moon phases or if it was the things that he was having happen that I had happen that were so close together, because
Dad
I know watching the awareness, it was right there.
Mm-hmm. Dad was kind of getting into the moon phases, kind of what, and I know this is kind of goes off on a weird rabbit trail, but like, not necessarily like, does the universe, is it really like what they say it is? Are we in kind of a realm type of thing? Dad was getting into that. So just kind of not to get way out in the weeds, but it could have been that. It could have been, who knows? It could have been more the paranormal gray aliens and orbs thing too. I mean, really, who knows?
Right. Yeah, because see, I never really spoke about the grays or the aliens or anything. There was one particular incident that happened at my granny's, and it was, we ended up, when they had all the crop circles happening, we had one of those appear in the hog pasture in the cattails. And that was pretty weird.
Have you ever seen a UFO at the house before at Granny's?
I didn't. Well, one time I was little, we were outside and I was playing with my cousins, and this thing went over the house, and it was really low, really bright, and it had like a tail behind it. And it was Christmas Eve. Me and my cousins were all outside playing. Of course, I ran in and I was like, look, and everybody ran outside and they're like, wow. And then later on they told us, oh, that was Santa Claus.
Right. Man, that sounds about right. There was a UFO. I don't know if you knew that or not. That messed with Dad for a little bit. He would always walk, and in the middle of the daytime, he took some videos and pictures of it and posted on his Facebook a couple years ago, and they were messing with him a little bit too. And it was, as we go and we start on the Sasquatch awareness project, what happens is all these other things like start showing up, and it's like, and even I thought it was very serendipitous. Les Stroud had his little Sasquatch thing or Bigfoot thing that he's doing. He's trying to do it like a Kickstarter. And on Thanksgiving, he talks about my dad, and then he talks about, you think they're just these animals and this and that, and then you have this really weird thing happen, and you start questioning things, and I find it just really, like I said, serendipitous that happened. But you start messing with these things and trying to figure it out, and just all these different things show up, but it seems to be in a pattern. Like you start here, and then it goes here, then here, then here, then here.
Yes, that's pretty much what happened to us. Also, it was, one encounter going out with your girlfriend, and then from there on up, it just got worse. Where I've been going lately, it's just across the lake from where I'm at. I can actually see the area from the house. Oh, well, I can see over to that area. And there's never been anything weird over there. And I've been getting a lot of EVPs, and I've been getting a lot of voices, and we got some pretty good pictures of some eye shine about 8-9 foot tall. We noticed now that in that area, when we came home, I was on the phone actually with Jesse when I arrived from an investigation, and I got out of the car and I was packing my stuff, and I was like, Jesse, you got to see this. And I turned my phone over to video where she could look while we were talking, and there were these lights over the area that I had just left, and they were all zigzagging around each other and chasing each other. And I thought, wow, that's got to be connected.
That's wild. Jess, what did you think about that? Seeing all the lights and stuff.
I don't know.
To put you on the spot, I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that.
No, it was definitely it was surreal. Yeah, knowing how close he was to where they were and just leaving the location. I mean, it was obvious those weren't planes or drones or I mean, they were something else, yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's the hardest thing too, is to describe to someone who really doesn't understand or isn't in the paranormal realm like we are. It's like you try to describe these things, and they're like, oh, it could have been a plane, or it could have been this or that. It's like, well, it could have been, but it would have had to have done this and this and this and this and this. And it kind of, it takes that out of there, but almost I feel like it's so hard to break through. I guess I don't know what to call them. Normies. What do we call folks that just don't understand?
Muggles.
Muggles. I like it.
Yeah, and then you're out there, and I've been reviewing some videos on the lights that people are seeing in Oklahoma right now. It's a big thing going on. A lot of people are seeing these lights, and they're posting them now. And I was noticing something. Whenever these lights go over people's houses, some of them, are moving faster than aircraft. And if you'll notice, when they're recording that they're talking, you can hear their kids in the background, the dogs or whatever. But my question is, where's the sonic boom?
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Where's the sonic booms? Where are things? Where are the physical things that we know are supposed to happen with that? How are these things able to defy physics unless they have a technology, whether it be, I get down in this realm of, I believe the government knows about them, and I kind of go with what Dave Pilates says is the government's never going to admit to anything that it can't control. So it knows about them. It plays off some technology of all this stuff, but it still can't control it or control them. So we're not going to talk about it.
Right.
So
that's
kind of,
I've told a lot of people, sometimes, we don't choose these things either. They choose us, as a child and everything. I didn't choose them. They chose to come around where I was at. And that, piqued my interest in them because I was like, what are they? But when I was a child, we would cry. The kids would cry. We hated it. It was not fun at all. And every night, it wasn't like it happened every so often, every night. And my granny, my mom, the sisters, everybody, they would call the sheriff's department and they would tell them, it's going to happen tonight at 8:30. It's going to be, you couldn't get a sheriff deputy out there. We can't just hang out around your house, wait for somebody to show up. Odds are, if we're out there, it ain't going to happen anyway, so we ain't going to catch them, So, I think they know, and they're like, we don't want to get out there and get tied up into something we can't lie our way out of.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I definitely think these agencies know. With one of the last readings, I talked about the TWA officer recommending Dad to a woman that saw a dog man. And I remember when that happened, like Dad told me that story, and I'm glad he wrote it in the book. But for those that haven't heard, this woman that runs over by, I'll tell folks, this woman runs over by Bill Park off Topside Road in Alcoa, Tennessee. It's right beside the airport. And in this park, she's running, no big deal. It's again, it's by the lake. So that water, I don't know, water has something to do with this. I feel like there's just like it's something happens. But so they're by this water, and she's coming around this corner, and she's jogging. She don't believe in Bigfoot. She don't believe in nothing. You know who she's a muggle, as Jess likes to put it. So she's doing this, and she rounds this corner, and she doesn't see a Bigfoot. She sees a dog man, and she like freezes, and she's like, it's got the face of a dog, but the ears are kind of different. They're not on top of the head, they're on the side, and it has raccoon hands, and I could see the skin and the fur and all that, and it's she snuck up on it basically because it was up looking at a plane, because the airport was going, the airport's right there, so it kind of caught it off guard. It looks down, kind of freaked out that it saw her. She said it jumps and just starts sprinting across the field and goes into the wood line. Well, she's like, the heck did I see? That's around a neighborhood with kids and all this stuff. We need to get this thing killed and out of here. So she calls the Tennessee Wildlife Recreation Association. TWRA is the thing that takes care of the waterways here and all the public lands. So she calls them, says, "Hey, this is what I saw." Gets kind of shoot off the phone. Calls again, and she says, "Hey, don't push me off this phone here." And the TWRA officer says, "Well, if you said it was a Bigfoot, we have people we'd send you to," which tells me they know about the Bigfoot, obviously. Right. But then he said, "Well, there is a guy that you can call and talk to. You can call this guy Scott Carpenter." And they gave my dad's information to her. Now, Dad is just a regular dude. Like, he's an amateur Bigfoot researcher. He's doing his thing on YouTube. And he has no association with the TWRA other than we have to buy our hunting licenses every year. That's the only thing that he does. And they not only know about him, but they have enough wherewithal to have his information on hand. So that tells me that government agencies know. At least here in Tennessee. I obviously I think the upper ones do too. But yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that the sheriff's office that you called as a boy just kind of sloughed you off type of thing. But I still think nowadays there's something up, and they know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh yeah. Even whenever I worked, they made it clear, and this is just in our training. This was like years ago when I was like 18 years old when I first went to CLEAT, and they would tell you, okay, now you have to go over this whole. I think it was like a couple of months of just report writing alone, how to prepare for court, how to write your reports, how to take witness statements, and they tell you now you're going to get calls if you work for the county that people are going to see, monkey man, dog man, gorilla man, armadillo man. They try to be funny about it. And then they say, but in your report cannot reflect that. It has to be a prowler because we cannot prove the existence of these creatures, and court has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And you don't have reasonable doubt that they exist.
That's wild. That is wild. So, speaking of the creeper and all that, have you guys heard the story of when they followed Dad home? There was multiple incidences of them kind of doing their little peeping Tom thing, where they would kind of check out the young ladies in the neighborhood. Did you guys ever hear that story?
Uh-huh.
So
I haven't heard that one. No. So what had happened is in the neighborhood there was these there was I think 2 or 3 incidences, but what had happened is there was like a party or something like that behind Dad's house, or like 2 or 3 like houses down, and this sheriff's office guy, I mean he was a police officer. And basically, a juvenile was up in the tree, and they were like, "There's a
excuse me, there's a little black boy in a hoodie. They said he was an outlet. He said jumped down out of the tree, jumped over the fence and ran off. And it's like he jumped out of the tree 20, 30 feet, jumped over a 6-foot fence and just ran off, huh? And that was the best way they could describe it. It had to be a black guy in a hoodie. It's like, it just kind of fits the bill. And then there was some other instances of peeping toms, but it was the same thing. It had to be the hoodie. It was the hoodie thing. So Dad had always told me that and kind of laughed. We kind of laughed it off and like, oh, you better be careful. They're following you home and they're messing around their neighborhood. So I was at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference, and this lady comes up and she's like, man, Travis, it's good to see you. And she hands me her driver's license. And I look at her driver's license and I'm like, oh, like you live on the same street Dad does, or down there. She's like, yeah, I never knew it. I was like, did you ever have those instances? And she's like, yes, I remember specifically the police coming around and looking for that peeping Tom or looking for that. So it was just a wild little connection there. And it's just kind of like a reaffirming thing that it wasn't just Dad making up stories. These things actually happened.
Uh-huh.
So they, wearing like the hoodies and stuff, that makes you look at all the old movies of the monsters and stuff. They had the hoods on.
They had the hoods on.
It's like they already know.
That they already knew, or having the big shoulders or whatnot. They already knew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know down at my granny's mom there.
What'd you say, Scott?
I was just gonna say I like the encounter of the two juveniles that came on the porch. That would be awesome to see.
Dude, that one. Let me show you the sketch that was drawn by Silva. So I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I gotta turn that. But that is the sketch of that. And so again, just kind of reconfirming, like my mother. So my mom and dad got divorced. So my mother and dad got divorced. Dad was remarried a few times. Marriage and relationships are hard. Just that is what it is. But my mother would always talk about, and when Dad first started this, is has Dad ever told you about those two demons that he saw? And she would say that Dad, and she was the one who told me that before Dad ever did, that Dad had these nightmares about seeing these two demons and all that stuff. And it would wake Dad up. Like Dad had PTSD from seeing that. And then he finally figured out that they were, Bigfoot. He talked about, I think he saw it. So hold on. Like he saw after my house, he smelled the skunk, playing a prank on me. Basically, here we go. Nightmares of this encounter plagued me for many years until a chance view of a Bigfoot documentary on TV. Sketches of a mother and an infant Bigfoot were shown during the documentary, and this caused the realization that these creatures were infant Bigfoot. After this realization, the nightmares finally ceased. So, but yeah, that was pretty wild, wasn't it, Scott?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then his mother, or your grandmother, walked out there to empty the trash can, and when she came back, she said she smelled something like skunk. Something stunk real bad.
Yes, yes, and that's that reoccurring thing. You can just that smell, and it's funny how people that don't even care about it, that don't want it, their first encounters, they always it's same thing over and over and over again.
Right. And your dad was what, 7 or 8?
Yeah. Dad had to have been 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
1971. He was born in 60. Oh, that's terrible. I don't know that. That's terrible. But
right.
Yeah, he had to be 9 or 10. Yeah. So he had no idea.
So would that have been your dad? would that have been his first encounter?
That was his first encounter. Yes, was when he was young.
And he was
9 or 10. So that
That's
matches
interesting.
up. Well, that matches up to what you guys have been saying, that it's not necessarily you
That's what I
choose
was
them.
just
They kind of choose you.
Right.
Right. How
And
old
I'll
was
just
your
be
mom whenever that first happened to you? Huh? My mom was 8 when she first had her encounter down there.
Man, that's wild. Why do you think
That's
it's a
what really
choosing
hit me
like that?
when you said that. Well,
Yeah,
mom, just speculating, they always thought that it wanted my mom more than the others. And the only thing that I could come up with is my mom had the closest encounter with it than any of the other girls. She was going up the steps, and it was right by the steps. So she seen it just face to face. And ever since then, it was always worse whenever, mom would be down there. And it's even to this day, if my mom goes to the woods, like if I wanted to go down there tonight and wanted to make sure that I had an encounter, I just have to
You
take
bring
mom
her.
and let her fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they will come to her.
Right.
Did you check out that warning to women episode that I did?
Yes, I've actually got it on here and some questions and stuff.
Yeah, man, that
Yeah.
that definitely could be one of those things, and we can get all into that. Like I just you guys are just as knowledgeable as I am, if not, you're actually way more. But I'm here hanging out with you. I love it.
Oh, I don't know a thing about them. All I know is, just what I've experienced, and it blows my mind because even when I was watching your dad when he done you read the Lost Innocence.
Yeah.
And you talked about the June 2009, he made a funny whooping sound, and then just with him doing that, something heard it and came to him pretty much. And
Yeah.
he said it, it was saying, So I was wondering, you think it was wondering what done that, or was it like, wonder why he's doing that? Is he messing with me?
Yeah, it could have been a messing with me. Could have been a frustrating, just that could have been any one of that. I think I described it as a but it really was the way I can remember Dad describing it. It was more of an angry, like a frustrated, annoyed thing that was only him, if that makes sense. Which is really interesting to me too. It's like
I try to put myself in their position a lot of times, and I'll be like, okay, now why would that have irritated? And then you get to thinking about it, and you think, okay, if I lived in the woods and another creature was to come by and start mimicking maybe a sound that my child would make, and it scares you, so you run to check on your child, and then you look out there and you're like, it's one of them humans in a boat,
Yep.
So
that
like,
could have been that.
Do I swim out there after him?
Right. Well, my thing is, these things know that humans are in the area, and one of the reasons why I believe they're in the area is because not only does it have water, it has a historical location toward Native Americans, so it's a Native American hotspot, and it's been there for years. Also, it's right across the river from from very, very, very rich houses. So Dad would say they don't have to hunt; they just go dumpster dive. They get whatever they want. They just swim across the river. No big deal. And there's a lot of horse trails that run in through there. So they have horses, and there's something about that. And riding horses, it's kind of a ladies sport like thing. So they get to watch a lot of ladies, a lot of horses, and they get great food. I mean, there's a reason that area that Dad went to is a hot spot. I believe it has just all these things that make it a really nice area for Bigfoot, or for anything. To be honest with you, for anything, there's still things out there that creeps Dad out, creep me out. If I'm being honest, I haven't, since Dad died and I buried him out there, I haven't been out in those woods. I've been out in the woods. I don't know, man. Call me a scaredy cat. Call me, I don't know. Just haven't done it, and I don't know. Right. I guess I'm scared too.
You know, I got scared out of a place for a while. I got busted in the face with a limb on one of my lives. Something hit me right across the face, and it actually, it blackened my eye almost immediately on the live. And I think it's because I was taunting it, maybe.
Yes,
that'll do it.
It was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet that night, and I could hear it in the tall grass and stuff. I could hear it, and I was like, you don't know, and I was like, I wonder, and I'm like, okay, I'll mess with it. But I think I started saying something like, I can see you're not hiding very good, and then the last thing I said was, I'm going to cut a switch and spank you. And about 20 seconds after that, I got hit in the face, and it knocked the light off my head. The camera smashed the ground. I mean, it hit me hard. It was right on the live.
Oh,
that's wild, man.
It was a hard hit. You could literally see his whole body go backwards when it hit him.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I think, and Dad talked about him getting zapped when he, and he said, he was cussing them out. He was dogging them, and that's when he got zapped really hard. So I think that, I think it's been said that they are, what is the word I'm looking for here? They're not jealous. The prideful, is that the word? What's another word for prideful? Like it's all about them.
Boastful, maybe.
Right.
Boastful. I don't know, but they're all self-centered. I think that's the word.
Narcissistic.
Yes, they're all narcissistic and selfish, and it's all about them.
Yeah.
So if you are dogging them, if you are saying something bad about them, if you're doing that, I think that's one of the best ways to elicit a response. It might not be the response you want, but it will elicit a response, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. And your dad, I didn't even know this. He said that was what got him in 2009 to pursue, I guess, really investigating him.
So what happened was Dad, he had watched some Bigfoot stuff, and he'd like, okay, because he, like any of us, you watch it, like, oh, okay, that's cool, interesting, all that, and he just made that whoop. Well, then it's like, well, that's not supposed to happen. I got to figure that out. And the way Dad, I have the same brain. The way our brains work, it's like, that doesn't fit my worldview. That doesn't fit into my little box. What the heck is it?
Right.
I have to now I have to expand my box and figure that out. And that's what Dad did. And you can see his process. And my goal is to kind of like go back and show those old tapes and almost kind of narrate them and go back and see like where he starts at, where his process, what his line of thinking is. And then he just goes and tries to figure it out. And I remember talking to Mom back 2008, 2009, 10, when this started happening. And Dad kind of came out to us, and he, I was like, hey, I'm looking for this. I believe in this. And that takes a lot of balls to come out to your family, because, man, people ridicule the crap out of you. And,
especially family.
Yeah, especially family. And they're like, okay, well, Scott's gone, he's gone off the loony bin here. But this is what my mom said, and I thought it was so wise. And she said, Travis, if they're out there, your dad will find them. That's just that's who he is. He's so good at that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And then it's like, all right, I'm in. Let's find these things, Dad. Let's do it together. And we went out on a few things, and I saw some footprints. Dad did little things like we went off the trail and he did these really low tech stuff. Like he would tie a line of yarn, of black yarn, and Dad was 6'2", and he tied up, 8 as high as he could reach. But it wasn't through like a trail. Like it was through like where he'd found them go through, like some footprints and stuff. And basically he'd go back, and then that little thing would be snapped, and there wouldn't be a limb falling or anything like that through it. And it's like little things like that, little non-tech things or low-tech things would be like, yeah, they exist. And then he did the whole rock moving thing. That's pretty wild. And even Les Stroud said that he has done that with some success as well. And it's always that 3-in-1 pattern. That was always really weird. I've actually still got that flat rock, and all those rocks. And I even have the gifts that he was left. I have that bird skull. Sorry, I go on these things. So, but yeah.
Oh no, it's very interesting to me. I mean, they're way smarter than what people give them credit for.
Oh yeah,
and
they're absolutely.
They're I don't even like to call them an animal.
No. Now again, this is what Travis believes. This is what my dad believes. This is what Travis believes. And this comes from my worldview as a Christian, and that's just where my worldview is. I believe, and Dad believed, that they are descendants of the Nephilim. If that is the case, that means they are a human hybrid. That means that they're basically like a species of human beings that have some angelic properties. Now, I'm not saying all of them have all the abilities, because just like with you and me and all that, I have a bald head. I didn't get nice hair. Now, does that mean that a certain type of Sasquatch has more angelic DNA than human DNA, and then they can do more kind of cool angelic things and have a little bit more powers, let's say? I think so. But that's just my worldview on that. So yeah, I'm not on the animal thing. I don't believe they're an animal. I believe they are a mix of natural and supernatural, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
I do too.
That's my stance.
Yeah. And that really freaks a lot of people out. That freaks the mainstream person out. Like I keep going back to Les Stroud, and I apologize, but I feel like he's just a really good example of it. He's totally like, this is a bipedal ape. This is giant Pitheca, whatever it's called.
Right.
That's like, it's just a missing ape, which is a logical thing to think when you're first getting into this.
Right.
But then you have, all these other things, and you have these experiences that you're not expecting, like mind speak, like little gray aliens, like these EVPs that keep happening to you, Mike, like all these things that don't make sense, that we really don't like talking about at the beginning. And then it's like, oh, well, hey, this happened to me. Oh yeah, that happened to me too. And then actually, have you ever had this happen? Because this happened. Well, yeah, I didn't know that it happened to anybody else too. And it just kind of grows and grows from there. And there's just so much more paranormal to it than just this big hairy ape.
Right.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Your dad made what he had wrote in that book, it kind of gave me goosebumps today whenever I was thinking about it. He said in 2009, whenever he had that encounter, that it changed the woods for him, that it changed, deer hunting for him.
Yes.
And then it made me, start thinking, because if a lot of y'all out there don't deer hunt, when we deer hunt, we go out before the sun comes up, and we sit in the dark woods just waiting for the light to be able to see to shoot, I've heard stuff walk around out there, but in your mind, you try to say, oh, that's a pig, or it's a squirrel over there playing, to calm yourself. But then, when your dad said that, you start thinking, what really walked past me while I was leaned up against that tree in the dark, laying there?
Yeah.
Or what walked up behind me and was watching me?
That's exactly right. I've told you guys, like, I've never seen one, thank God, and hopefully I never will. But at the same time, I have extensively prayed them away. I believe there are times, I've been out hunting, and I was hunting in the location or around the research area, because that's where we hunted too, and I was there, and you know how you get that like weird feeling on the back of your neck, like just this weird, like I'm being watched or something like that. I got that feeling, and I was like, "Oh, it's a squirrel. You just chill out. Stop being the P word, stop being a pansy,
Yeah.
all that stuff that we guys tell ourselves." I'm sitting there, and I kid you not, it sounded like someone screamed at me, and I jumped 10 feet up in the air, and I yelled back. I'm like, "Get the blank out of here." And I did. And I'm like, and I yelled at it. And I have told myself that might have been a bird or a crane. That's what I'm telling myself. But I question myself that all the time too. But it's like, just like you said, Mike, it's like, what really did I hear? And there was another time that I was walking down East Lakeshore Trail, and it's by the lake, and I was walking by these boulders, and I got that dread feeling. Have y'all ever got that before when you're out in the woods, just that feeling of sheer dread?
I haven't. Not
I
yet.
haven't either, but I know Mike has.
On a live.
So okay, so you got it on a live. Jess, it's not.
Travis, I was on a live.
Yeah. Tell me your thing real quick.
It was bad.
I was around this rock
It
face,
ended up
bad. I just prayed, and I just turned around. I was so scared to even walk past it. Like, I've never felt that level of fear, but I didn't even walk past it. I went back, and man, it was really, really, really bad. Yeah. Like, I'd never felt that level of fear, before. And I just didn't want to go past that rock face for some reason. And I was like, man, am I just this big pansy? Like, there's nothing out here, and I start trying to tell myself, Bigfoot ain't real. Like, oh, this is just crap. But I couldn't take that step. I could not go past that rock face for some reason. It's wild.
And when you're hunting, you got a 30-06 270.
Yes.
You've got weaponry, but it's not going to stop that thing from what you hear and the size of them.
Yes.
Even though you have the weapons, you're still insecure when you're out there.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to ever see one, and I definitely don't want to see one close enough to ever have to shoot it. And Lord forbid if I ever have to shoot one, it ain't going to stop it, and this thing's going to kill me. So,
right,
yeah,
right.
Like
you talk about the dread. I went one night on a live, and I went to a location. I hadn't even got out at this location, and whenever I pulled in, I had this like overwhelming sense of you're not supposed to be here. And I've never felt that here before, ever. And I was like, what is going on? So I'm sitting there and I have this like, you need to leave. And I'm like, I'm live, I'm like, I can't leave. Everybody's here, So I get out, and as I'm walking, somehow, I don't even know how, and I had this feeling, it's pitch black, and there's a creek in front of me, and there's a high bank on the other side of me, and probably about 30 yards down on the right, I just had this feeling that there was something there. And I told everybody in the live, I said, I'm going to turn this big spotlight on and you all watch over there and you're going to see it. How I knew that, I have no idea. I turned the spotlight on, shined it across the creek, right where I thought it was at. Now, we didn't see it, but let me tell you, that thing screamed like I've never heard nothing scream. It sounded just like what you said. It sounded like a lady, but it was more of a deeper, stronger, like, man, you just did not want to go over there. You know, it was like, wow.
You could almost feel the power of the scream.
Yeah, all through you.
Yeah, that's wild.
You just like, and it was, and now it's happened a few times to me. We actually nicknamed it the Screamer.
The Screamer.
Hey. Yeah, because it always seems to scream. Now there was one night Scott was on the live too. I was packing up my car, and nothing had happened. And I was at the back of, I drive a Durango, so I had the back hatch up, and I was putting everything inside, all my equipment. I was taking all my lights off, my duct tape and everything, and I'm throwing it in the back. And while I'm standing there, whatever it was snuck down the tree line and got up behind me, and it screamed like that from probably about 20 feet from me.
Oh.
I did not waste time getting the rest of my stuff off. I got in the car and I left. I actually called the group of people. I called my moderators, and I said, if something happens to me, it got me, because I mean, it was right there.
Man, that's wild. That's
It
wild.
Was,
that's yes. That's
So
the thing, is like when you can't, that's the thing, is like when you can't see them, and then they start making noises, and they're either like, why, and then they're trying to scare you. Oh.
It actually, I mean, I've been in a lot of scary places in the work I did. You know, we get calls in the middle of nowhere, but this was one of those to where if they would have told me to go down there again without somebody, they'd have to fire me, because
I heard
that was, you feel helpless. Does that make sense? You feel like if it wants to do something to me, it's just going to do it. Like you feel like you're not going to be able to stop whatever it decides to do. It's a helplessness feeling, that just a feeling of you're prey. I don't know how else to say it.
I heard that. That's how Dad felt about going into this one area where he saw the dog man. He wouldn't go without me or without someone else. He wouldn't go without me or Dave Pilates or I think there was another couple folks that he went with. But he would not, like, I feel terrible, like before he died. And so Dave Pilates had come, and they had filmed a few things, but I just remember Dad asking me, he's like, hey, I need to do some things and some filming. I'm going to go to where the dogmen are. Would you come with me? And I was working. I wasn't able to come, and I feel like crap. It makes me mad that I had to work, but I say all that to say, there's places, that you just don't go alone because of that feeling, because of those things. So,
your dad talked about he believed that some people were marked. And I've talked a lot about that too. I always said, I wondered, if they maybe imprint on us like animals do, because it seems like with Mom and everybody that these creatures do that with, it's like they are almost obsessed with that person. And, they can't let go for some reason. And they was always there. And I wondered, it's part of the angelic, because I believe, like you do, by their actions, or I guess what we would call it, their MO, they like to watch, they like to watch. They're like that, right. that stalker has that lineage still enough in their blood to where that's what they do. They watch, they observe. And if they report, who are they reporting back to and why?
I have many theories on that. I have many thoughts, many theories, and I mean I can go down that rabbit hole, but that's a good question, man. That's a good question. Like what do y'all think? Scott, Jess, like what do y'all think about that question that he asked?
Yeah, I think they can mark you. I think they can follow you. There's too many people out there that's had encounters where they have followed them home from a long distance. And that, I mean, I'm talking like 20, 30, maybe even 100 miles, and the things at their house the next night. So, yeah, that could be the angelic part of it, that they can track you and follow you where you go. I think that they can imprint on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't doubt at all or deny or, I mean, I believe 100%. Not only, I mean, are they in our forests, but yeah, they're everywhere around us, and we don't see them even in the suburbs. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
people think that they're safe in the cities and in the suburbs, and oh no, they're not. And one of the things that I thought was interesting too is when I was listening to one of the readings, how you said that they could, follow you and mind speak, and no matter where you are, and they know where you are in your room and can mind speak there, and but who they're going back and reporting to kind of got me. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
So
Well-
me and Tony Merkel had this conversation standing outside when Dad died. He came over and he hung out a little bit and just hung out with me because I was wrecked. And we had this conversation, this exact conversation. And me, with my Christian worldview, I believe that there is a war coming, and that men will see things that their hearts will fail because of what they see. Who
Yeah.
knows what that is? Now, Chuck Missler, I mean, I think Chuck Missler said it, but someone else said it's like, okay, when the Satan fell, he took 1/3 of the angels, right? Now he's got to make up 2/3. He's got a troop problem, so he's got to figure it out. Could Bigfoot, could Dogman, could all these things be ramping up of that? Because what do we always see in any alien, any I say TV show, but any TV show, any alien thing, anything like that? What is the end goal of the aliens? The end goal is to always breed somehow with humans, make a hybrid. That
Right.
is literally the entire goal. If you watch Ancient Aliens, it get like at the end of every episode, that's what they've done. If you watched X-Files, and I'm a huge X-Files guy, the whole end goal was the aliens were trying to interbreed with humans somehow.
Right.
Like that. If you look at Genesis 6, what were the angels trying to do? Interbreed with humans. They're trying to create this hybrid species somehow. They were successful, but before the days, before the flood.
Right.
And the Lord says it's as in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be.
Right.
So is there troops being staged? Is that, I mean, that's a far out there theory, I know, but I mean, from my worldview,
Well,
it's not, that's where I look at it.
It reminds me of a couple of things. It's almost goes back to all of this is actually the war over the seed. It's almost like the movie, Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
They're underground right now building their army of trolls.
That's yes.
And at the last moment, our Father is going to come back and save us by the light.
Bingo.
They know they're defeated, but they want to make sure that whenever they go to hell, that they don't go alone, because misery loves company.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean,
the more
Tolkien was a Christian, and I believe that the Holy Spirit wrote through him. I totally believe that. And he's the one, Tolkien got C.S. Lewis saved. And C.S. Lewis is one of the top theologians in Christianity at the,
Oh, wow.
Did you know that at all, Mike? Scott, did you know that?
No.
What about you, Jess?
I
did not know that.
Yeah. So J.R. Tolkien, was a Christian. Like he was a stout Christian.
Yeah.
And him and C.S. Lewis fought like they were friends. C.S. Lewis was not a Christian. He was almost like the Jordan Peterson of that day. And Tolkien got C.S. Lewis saved and did that. So I believe exactly what you said, Mike. It's like I believe the Holy Spirit works in so many different ways and can write those stories. And I believe Lord of the Rings is a shadow, is a mirror of what's to come. I truly believe that.
It hits home with me. I mean, when I watch that movie, it's like there is so many things in there that just line up. And he knew he couldn't come out and tell it, the right way, because they would have never allowed that.
Right.
So
that's exactly right. Why is this
Christians
serpent?
have eyes to see and ears to hear.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
We
why
know when another brother is talking to us.
Why did Jesus speak in parables? Not to hide it from his followers, to hide it from the Pharisees.
Right.
That's it.
So that sorry, I didn't mean to get all religious there, but it can't help it sometimes.
Hey, it's all included.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have one without the other.
Yes.
We was even told, whenever I was doing my investigative school, when I had to go do that, they told us, they said, in your work, you're going to find many people that you're going to like, and you're going to think that they're good, but there's a difference between friendly and good, and you'll have to make hard sacrifices, because a friendly person isn't always good.
That's right.
Good is the fruit of the tree. You judge it by the fruit.
Yes.
I mean, they can say a lot of things and they can pretend and project a lot of things, but when it comes down, as the cowboys say, the nut cutting.
Yep.
Where do you stand?
That's right.
Yeah.
And
right.
I think part of our problem is, I talked to Jesse today, and a lot of the problem with the world today, I think, is tolerance.
Uh-huh.
We tolerate too much evil.
I highly agree. I can't get into too much of that because of where I work, and but I can agree.
Right. I totally understand. Another thing I was going to ask you, whenever you said you was going out with your dad and everything.
Yeah.
I think that you've been very, very, very blessed that you haven't had that encounter yet. Because I would be willing to bet that they are just waiting to show themselves.
I 1,000% agree. But I don't know if it's my dad has prayed over me. My wife has prayed that this wouldn't happen. I kind of have to hand it to her. Even before Dad's realization of what they were, Jesse, you can, I'm going to play on this a little bit. Like a woman's intuition, there's just something about it.
Oh yeah.
And my wife was like, there's something about these. Don't be messing with them. Don't need to be messing with them. I'm like, what are you talking about, babe? It's just Bigfoot. No big deal. She's like, no. So I know that she's prayed over me. I know when Dad, we kind of figured out, it's like I've prayed, like I've walked the four corners of this property, and when I had that dread feeling, I told you, I prayed and I said, I never want to see these things. And I've spoken it out loud. It's like, y'all stay away from me. I don't want you. I don't want to see you. I don't care.
Right.
But yes, so all that to say, yes, I do believe that I am extremely blessed because I've found footprints. I have found, I'm like, I've been hiking before and I've seen that one footprint that's like right in the middle. That's like, all right, come on now. I've seen that before and it's like, I get annoyed. It's like, I don't want to see y'all. So, I saw it and I'm like, whatever, and just go on. Cause I know they're just trying to mess. And it's like, I just don't want to see y'all. There was one time, let me tell you this story real quick. So again, one of the reasons why I haven't been hunting out at that property. There's a gas pipeline that it follows, and that pipeline runs out to this peninsula. So there's water on all three sides, and it goes out to these beautiful fields where there's deer and all that stuff. And I was deer hunting out in these fields. And as you know, Mike, what's the best time at night to go, or what's the best time to go deer hunting if you're doing a nighttime deer hunt, or not nighttime, but in the afternoon? What's the magic hour?
Without a spotlight.
Yes, it's not. Yeah. No, Mr. TWRL, sir, I do not have this massive flashlight.
Oh man.
But
we was talking about who are they reporting to. You're talking, about deer hunting. What do we do as deer hunters? We stalk them in season and out of season. We know where the game trails are. We know their habits.
Yep, that's true.
And we even know the one that we've picked out that we want to harvest.
Ooh, that hits home, bro. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's crossed my mind a lot. People say, oh, they won't hurt me. I go out there all the time and they talk to me and they gift me and everything. You know what? I drive to my corn feeder 4 days a week too and feed the deer that I'm going to shoot on opening day.
You're dang right. Now, and then that begs a question. Hold on, let me get back to my story real quick, and I apologize, and I'll get back to that question.
Okay.
I was out there at twilight stalking a doe, and the doe saw me, she blew, and I'm like, daggone, well, I guess I got to start walking back out. Well, I was 3 miles in at dusk, and then I'm a mile and a half in. It's dark, completely dark. And I'm like, about said a bad word. I'm like, if I'm blah, 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 blah. So I called Dad. I'm like, Dad, I am deep in this thing and it's your fault because now I know that there's Bigfoot and all this stuff here. And I'm at, get me out of this. And he's like, you'll be fine, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, just, he said, pray this. And I prayed. And Dad stayed on the phone with me for 30 minutes, the 30 minutes to an hour, which, it's funny. He said, oh, don't worry. And then afterwards, he was like, oh, that was a little scary, buddy. I'm like, a little scary, Dad. I was the one in it.
Well, that's what parents do, though.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, but man, oh God, it freaked me out. But but he had me pray that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And I prayed that for an hour out of that daggum thing. And you talk about I've never been more scared in my life. Like it was worse than that dread feeling. Cause it was like, well, if I die, it was, cause there's things in that pipeline. So like it's a cut pipeline, but there's parts of this that there's of this thing where like there's these, thorn thickets, bushes, all that are like this high. So you're like literally like walking through this thing and it's like anything could grab you. Oh, it's freaky. It scared the crap out of me. And all I had at the time was like a little flashlight. So it was phenomenal. And also what scared me to death was I light shined a bobcat, or there was like that, and she just looked at me and she had a little cub, but all she did was look at me. I was like, And I said, I guess there's someone's cat out here. And Dad's like, that's a bobcat. Keep moving. I didn't click. It didn't click. Well, I was like, oh, someone's cat.
Mm.
That's like, no, keep moving.
Don't
And it didn't, like I said, it didn't click. So anyway,
Can I hold?
but
Can I?
yeah, that's literally, yeah. It's like, what happened to Travis? His face got eaten off. But anyway, but I made it out there. But all that to say, getting back to it, what you said, it's like, oh my gosh, yes. What are they reporting back to? And then what is when is opening day for them? And what is telling them to not be opening day?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good question.
And why are some people taking and others not? I think that they're smart enough to know that they're opportunists. That if you're out there and you get yourself in a situation to where it can look like it might have been an accident, then they're going to take full, they're going to say, okay, this is our chance now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary because think about like your dad said, kids seem to be the ones to see them and hear them first and encounter them first. Well, whenever we go to say like a dog pound or something, what's the first thing that we look at? We don't look at the adult ones. We look at the babies, how cute they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big ones bite us and they can defend themselves better than the littler ones can. The littler ones still haven't learned to fear us as much as the older ones have.
Yeah, that's the truth. They haven't. They're naive. They haven't learned that fear. That's
right.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And they don't have a worldview to try to figure out like, oh, that shouldn't exist, because to them everything's new.
Oh yeah, with the video games and TV, they think everything's real.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I mean, kids can believe in monsters, and it's okay to them. Like it totally fits in their worldview. No big deal. Yeah, monsters exist. No big deal. But for adults, it's like, wait a second, monsters don't exist supposedly.
And your dad talked on that. He said we shouldn't be telling the children that because we're programming them to believe that it's not out there. And
right.
That makes them very susceptible, because then, like what your dad said again, they start comparing things that they see to, it was a bear, it was a coyote, it was a wolf,
right.
Which helps the higher ups, because that way they don't have a little kid saying, Mommy, I saw a monster, I saw a Bigfoot, I saw a bear.
Right. That's exactly
that's
exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think that's what Dad's research and Dad's project and where I'm trying to get to now is, like, I'm not trying to prove they exist. Like, that's all. I believe Dad did that. I believe there's so many other people that have proved they exist. And if you don't believe they exist, sorry, this ain't the show for you. But now it's kind of just trying to bring awareness, like, hey, these exist, and trying to bring that as mainstream as possible, to the point of when you see one, or if God forbid you have an encounter, it doesn't ruin your life. It doesn't shut you down. Like, there's ways of coping and getting over it. And there's, and us talking, and us sitting here for talking about it. They're just these poor folks that see it and then just become obsessed, obsessed with it. It's like, you can do that, but like, just kind of let's having a way to move on with life too.
Right.
And it just being a part of life, rather than and treating it like you would like a bear in the woods. Or like, okay, these things are here, just be careful and all that. But
right,
it just completely destroying someone's worldview and destroying like what they can, like how they can cope. We don't want that. We want to try to help that the best way we know how.
Right.
Well, your dad would even tell people, that said they wanted to experience one. He would ask them, Are you sure you do? Because there's other things out there than Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's
Are
right.
you sure that's what you want to do? And he even went as far as to say, don't take your children in the woods.
That there for a little bit, Dad. Dad kind of let that pendulum, and you could see where that pendulum swung for Dad, and I he kind of took that back a little bit, at least in this book he did. He took it back, and it's like, go out, enjoy the woods, all that, but be aware. I think that was the biggest thing, was again just the awareness of what's going on.
Right.
But there for a little bit, um, Dad got angry with him. Dad, he said, screw this, I'm done with it, all that. And like you say, like I think he got really burnt with the DNA study and that stuff. Like it really hurt him, that in his mind, and that's the thing, he trusted that science, if we could scientifically prove it, which they did, but if we could scientifically prove it, then everybody will know and everybody will accept it, and all this. And just the gatekeeping in science Dad was really privy to, and saw the dark side of it. And I think it jaded him for a little bit. And then he found the new calling in trying to help people and raise awareness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I understand where he was coming from too, because I'm sure he was looking at the whole picture. A lot of people don't believe in these things, so they're taking their kids to the woods to go fishing, and they're saying, go run and play, or play over here, whatever, we're going to fish. And they're just leaving their kids out there. And then the next thing you know, our kids are missing. They was right there.
Mm-hmm. That's that. Yeah, don't do that. Again,
that point of separation.
Yes, yes, that's and
the things we see, in the dark, they're there in the daytime too.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The things we see, in, like you said, the things you see on those infrared stuff. Whew, that's wild, man. And that's the thing, is like, it's there. We just can't see it with our human eyes, but it's there. Right. And like you said, if it's there in the dark, probably there in the light too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. And your dad said a lot about, people are going to think you're crazy if you talk about these things.
Yes.
And he even said, don't investigate them. Don't investigate them. Don't mess with them. Just leave them alone.
Right. I think can we get into that real quick? I think if you're going to be in this field, if you're going to do this, if you're going to talk about this, you have to have thick skin, period, in a sentence. You cannot be upset. You cannot be frustrated, like when someone disagrees with you, or when someone calls you out, or someone just doesn't just thinks you're a liar, and just you have to have thick skin, because what you're saying goes completely against their worldview. Like, and
right.
And here's the thing too, is like, okay, in the Bigfoot community or in the research community, whatever, like you have differing thoughts. Well, differing thoughts also, there's money involved with certain thoughts too. And if you say one thing that completely wipes out the money source for another, of course that person's going to come at you. So you got to have you got to have thick skin. You got to be able to take people laughing at you. You have to be able to take it. And if you're not willing to walk through that fire and not be, how do I say, and not press on, then maybe it ain't for you. Is that a terrible thing to say, or way to say it?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is.
If you're going to be butthurt over criticism, then you're never going to find the truth anyways, because you're going to be afraid to put yourself out there.
Right. Right.
If I would have quit from criticism, I wouldn't have had 25 years in law enforcement and security because, trust me, my everything was judged during that. I mean, plumb down to
Right.
everything you do at times, and you feel like, man, But then you have to look. I think you have to look inward, and the main thing I think what helps me with this, don't do it for the numbers, do it for the truth.
Yes.
You got to follow the truth because we can want an outcome, just like whenever you're an investigator. You're every case that you see, you're gonna form an opinion before you find the absolute truth. And what you have to do to be able to be a good investigator is you have to put that aside, and you got to follow the truth if you agree with it or not, because the evidence, because it's going to take you to the truth. And the truth is not always what we want it to be, but still we have to, if we want to be completely honest and completely truthful, we have to find the truth no matter where it takes us. And don't be afraid to be a man and say, hey, I was wrong, I changed my mind, I was wrong, you guys were right, thank you for the information. Be able to do that, and you will go so much further.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we all can take something out of that, is being able to say, hey, not be so pig-headed and say we're right. We could be right, but being able to say we're wrong.
Right.
That's absolutely, man, you said that really, really well, Mike.
Well, and another thing to add is,
and
is also the fact that like some of the things that I like to do is listen, and I always listen to everybody else's opinions, theories, concepts, ideas on whatever they've researched or, their experience in doing things. I might not necessarily agree with everything that they're saying and their thoughts and their theories, but I'm still going to listen to them and hear them out because, again, there might still, you have to find that truth somewhere in between there. And obviously the experiences that they've had have led up to something. They're not walking away more, dumber than when they went in and had that experience. So whether or not I would believe their theories and ideas, whether they're Christian ideas or non-Christian ideas, I'm still going to listen to them because, again, I learn a little bit more every single time I hear another experience or I hear their research and their studies. And that's another thing important too. I especially find in this field, depending on which side of the table you're on, many times if it doesn't follow that strict Christian protocol, it's out the door and they don't want to listen to it. And there's still some, there's still some knowledge to be had there.
Makes sense to me, Jess. That's good call out. Good call out.
Yeah.
And also, we got to talk about the too. Your dad talked about super soldiers, Travis. What is your thoughts on super soldiers?
Super soldiers, man, super soldiers absolutely could be. So we know the DoD and DARPA and all that. We know they've been working on stuff. And so here's what I know. So I know Dad was in the Air Force and he worked in communications. Okay. So his goal in the Air Force was to make sure that whatever they were talking about on one phone got to the other. And there's always someone listening to make sure that those connections stayed connected. He was the dude listening. So he had top secret level clearance. So did my mother. There were things that he was privy to. He was not a fan of Area 51 and all that because that's where they kept things. So I believe that one of the things that he heard is them talking about them trying to make super soldiers, and I think that's pretty well known that they've been trying to do that for a long time. Do I think that they may be screwing around here in Oak Ridge? Do you guys know what Oak Ridge is, or have you ever heard of that before?
No.
Okay. So Oak Ridge is a place here in East Tennessee. where the bombs were made. You ever heard of the Manhattan Project before?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's Oak Ridge.
Okay.
So Oak Ridge still has plants going on right now. There are still there. Let me just put it to you this way: there's a funny story of a sheriff's office guy who pulled over a non-marked truck, non-marked semi truck, and it had 4 or 5 Sprinter vans. And the going joke is no one at the sheriff's office told him he wasn't supposed to pull those over. He pulled it over and got out, and before he could get out, there were guys with MP5s telling him to get out of his car. So there, who knows what goes on up there, but I'm pretty positive that they're working on super soldiers. They're working on all that genetic manipulation, all that stuff. But it's also come out many things that they're trying to do the transhumanism stuff in public life. And if they're trying to do it in public life, my goodness, of course they've been doing it in government.
Right.
Yeah, for longer.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So the super soldier stuff, absolutely. That would make a lot of sense as to why you may have a larger Bigfoot presence in East Tennessee, because I mean Oak Ridge is not far from us. I say like 30-45 minute drive. So
Right. I think drones did a lot as far as military now. I think they're actually probably better than a super soldier on the ground.
I agree.
It's amazing what they can do with the drones. I mean, they can literally pick you out and assassinate you.
So, Scott, talking about that, do you think some of the UFOs and UAPs we've seen have been drones, have been government drones and all that they've done?
100% think so. Yes.
Now, the net, because I watched the Joe Rogan thing, and Mark Ardizian talked about that. If you guys haven't watched that, that's a great one. And he talked about the drones and how he believes that a lot of the UAPs that we've seen, that no human could handle these G forces and all that, because we're spamming a can up there.
Right.
But basically that you can do it with the drone.
Right.
If you can get a propulsion system of electromagnetic propulsion system or whatnot, and where it doesn't take fuel, it takes something else, and you don't have to move air. You can just, like I said, magnet of some sort, and you can go left, right, up, and down without having the human body dealing with G forces.
Right.
You got to kill a machine.
Same thing with the under the lakes. When you start seeing lights under the ocean, under the lakes, people say, "Oh, these lights were traveling under the water." Well, that easily could be a waterproof drone. Easily.
Absolutely. Easy. Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, you're saying something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing stories. I mean, way back, even when before high school, hearing stories about, the UFOs flying around, but they weren't these giant things. They were these tiny, tiny crafts. And in my mind, I kept thinking, well, how is anything flying those? Because of course, back in high school was, early 90s. So
yeah, you're good. I was there with you.
Who's flying these? How can these little people? What are these things? And now time progresses, and we know about drones, and we know about all these other types of crafts and vehicles that are flying around. But back then, that wasn't even thought of. That wasn't even heard of.
Right.
And so, has the government been, again, testing us out on, how people would react? I mean, of course.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. I agree
and
with you,
as technology went further, maybe that's why they got larger. As we learned more, we were able to make bigger and bigger drones, more sophisticated. So we started out with the little ones, and now we're up to motherships,
Well, Dad also told me that they, back when he was in, and we're talking like the 80s, and we're talking like, he was in the occupation of Germany back when, but when we took down the wall and all that. So dad was there. Even at that point, they had weapon systems that would hologram, and these holograms would be seen on radar. So and they could do these. They called it something like these battlefield multiplying implements or something like that, where there's only really one plane, but you could put this hologram off that would show up on radar, and it would look like 15 planes. And they had that back in the daggum 80s. Who knows what they've got now?
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, even back in the very beginning of the wars, the first war, they had inflatable tanks that looked just like a real tank all over the place. Just to scare the people they were going after, to make them think that they had all this equipment. Yeah.
So I'm of this theory, and this is Travis going way down the rabbit hole. I'm a believer in that they, like, the rules of the game are they have to tell you what they have. Now they can tell you inadvertently, but they have to tell you. So I believe they tell us in movies. Like I'm a huge, like, they're telling us what's going on in movies guy. So they all, and what's been coming lately, the Arrival and this and that and Alien and the new Aliens Romulus. And again, what's the big deal in Aliens Romulus or Aliens thing? It's that interbreeding. So it just all, it all connects. Sorry.
It really does. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I agree. There's a guy that I listen to, his last name's Hanson. I can't remember his first name. And he done a thing I thought was really interesting on Starlink. And what I found interesting about Starlink is he doesn't believe we have ever passed the firmament.
Okay.
So his
theory
my
attention.
is, and this is this is a theory. I have to put it out. I always tell people it's a theory.
Buckle up, boys.
But I think it's a good one. He says when the Hindenburg burnt, they didn't stop developing blimps. What you're looking at is not a bunch of satellites. You're looking at a huge blimp that has satellites on it. And he said those spy satellites, we seen going across that we shot down, that we're having trouble with.
Mm-hmm.
He said those aren't spy satellites. Those are our satellites that's supposed to be in space. But now with new technology, we're able to afford to buy cameras now that can look up there and see this stuff. So now they got to come around and say, oh, no, that's the spies. That's mm-hmm. China, or whoever. And actually, we're seeing the truth. We're starting to see the truth. The darkness is being brought to light.
I haven't come publicly and said that I am maybe dabbled in that theory as well. I'm not willing to come out publicly and say that. If I can say that as muddy in the waters as well. But yeah, and Dad was on that. Dad was on that too, actually.
It's very interesting because whenever you look at the physics involved, you take a 747 plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you take the cost that it takes to fly from, California to Hawaii or wherever. And you measure that by the cost of a blimp doing it. Blimps are way cheaper. Blimps can carry more weight per square inch than an airplane can. They're more efficient. They ride better. There are so many more things that are better about them. But if blimps are that cheap, then you can't make money off of people transporting them. So you have to have something to eat up the fossil fuels and stuff because you have to continue that cycle. Because you said, when it comes to taking money from somebody, you're going to make a lot of big people mad.
That's exactly right. That's why you don't have free energy, and that's why Tesla's work got axed too. Is Thomas Edison's the funder of it, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, we ain't making money off this. You're done."
Yep. And he talked about the Bermuda Triangle.
Mhm.
You know, I grew up in school and we had our teacher was really into that stuff. And his theory on the Bermuda Triangle now goes back to the same theory he has that we have not broke through the firmament, that the Bermuda Triangle is actually where we aim our rockets to land and sink.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I've done I've done way too much research on this. So I'm there with you. And I have a buddy of mine who is extremely scientific, and he makes good points, and I try to throw points back at him. And I also believe that we have not broke through the firmament, or as how'd you put it? The Muggles used to say, the Muggles say the Van Allen belts is what science is like to call this. But magically, the astronauts in the '60s just blew right through the Van Allen belt, no problem, and came right back, no problem. Have you heard of the Van Allen belts before,
Yes.
Jesse and Scott? Yeah, so you're there.
Yes.
Right?
I'm a fan of the Y-Files, so I like to. Yeah, I'm very aware of those.
Oh yes, okay, good. But I like to mention that to my scientific friend. I'm like, man, they blazed right through those, no problem. I was always wondering how in the 1960s, by the way, how in the world did they heat and cool a box that was minus 300 degrees and then plus 300 degrees all in the same hour with the cooling system of a car battery that didn't die, that that didn't just seep out and all that. And he's like, yeah, that sounds a little funny. I'm like, it does.
Right.
That's just one of many things.
I'm just a simple person. I'm like the feral person in this, and I'm still wondering. I'm wondering when are we going to go to the moon and pick up the guy that filmed the landing?
Yeah, I want to know that. I want to get him. I'd like to get him. I'd like to get a lot of that stuff, man.
A GoFundMe.
Yeah, I want to GoFundMe for that guy. There's just so much. There's so much stuff that I believe that we were told that is incorrect, and it all had to do with money. All had to do with money and power and status and all that. And I think that we can figure out. I think that we can figure out like what's going on with Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and what is going on with all this paranormal activity, if we follow the money. Like somehow, I feel like that leads back to where it's going. I definitely could be wrong there, but I think that plays a part in it.
Yeah, it does in the national parks. As far as if they came out and said there was a dog man that lives in this park and showed you a picture of it, and Smoky Mountains, a big Sasquatch in there, people just would not go. They wouldn't even ride through the mountains. So then you're starting to lose money.
Yep, Scott. It is the Smoky Mountains, because I live basically in a small town that you have to go through to get to the Smoky Mountains. Like, it brings, I think, 14 million people through our town a year. It's insane. Yeah, it's insane amount of revenue that our town gets from visitors and all that. But if you say there's Bigfoot in Dollywood or hanging out around Dollywood, people would lose their hoop.
To show them a picture of one, an actual true picture or a video, people would just freak out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It would literally stop everything. People wouldn't be camping. Your kids wouldn't be going to the parks. It would destroy the world if they knew what was out there, and they're not going to ever expose that.
Exactly, they're not ever going to expose that or ever going to admit that.
And that's what's good about your dad making awareness project, to let people know, yes, they are out there, but don't stop enjoying life. Don't stop camping. Don't stop living your life.
Yes, like that was the biggest thing he talked about, is don't stop living your life. And again, not to be biblical, but it says in the Bible 360 times, do not be afraid or do not fear.
Right.
So that's what we're not supposed to do, is we don't fear.
Right.
So I think that's Dad did a good job of saying that. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Scott. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. I agree 100% with you. Yeah.
I've theorized on something also that it's probably going to get me in trouble, but the national parks.
We're deep in it now, buddy.
So get ready to block Mike.
Yeah. Too late to turn back now.
That's right.
Too late to turn back now. My uncle was a Navy SEAL, and he told me pretty much the way the government thinks is whenever we would say go to war, and they look at a spot that we want to take from the enemy, they don't look at how much money is it going to cost us to take that spot. How many lives are we willing to lose to take that spot?
Mm-hmm.
So if our national parks are out there, do we have this agreement that a lot of people theorize on that, okay, you can have so many humans a year if you don't do this?
I absolutely think so. I absolutely think so. And I think, not to get back to the X-Files, that was a part of the agreement of, that the FBI was talking to the aliens about, is you can have this, here's the agreement, you can take this many people, but you don't do this. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I remember a Twilight Zone episode where it was something very similar to that. And the thing that struck me was, it was I don't know if you guys are familiar with, it was the brown paper bag. And they had struck a deal with the aliens that they could take anybody that was darker than a brown paper bag.
Mm.
And there was this, because everybody's going, well, of course you're safe and your family's safe, but what about your wife's side of the family? Because, you're mixed, and it was like this whole thing, and these were like politicians in the X-Files episode, or not X-Files, Twilight Zone episode. And, there was this ethical thing, but they were able to bring in the race into it too. And it was just like, would the government really do something like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm painting my roof. I'm painting my roof blue tomorrow night.
Buddy.
I'm not taking any chances.
But I heard that. But like, seriously, I think they would. And I think this is you got to talk about this stuff. And I think that it's not just science fiction, man. No. Like if we go back, I think all this too is like, we go back, we've known about Bigfoot, or they've talked about that for years, thousands of years. It's been talked about. Werewolves have been talked about for thousands of years. This is not new. Vampires, people drinking blood, all that is nothing new. This is all years and years and years in the making. And we think that it's just someone making up these fairy tales or whatnot and these things. And it's like, no, buddy, these are, as Jordan Peterson likes to put it, archetypal stories. Well, if they're archetype, there's an architect, there's a foundation to it. Where does that foundation come from?
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Well, look what Roseanne, told Tucker Carlson. She said there is vampires. They eat human flesh. They drank human blood. She straight outed it right on his show. And, he said, Roseanne, you're scaring me, but you've been in the entertainment business for so long in Hollywood.
She scared me just to look at her.
Oh yeah, he told her, he said, he's like, I'm sure that you know things. And she said, I don't have to guess, Tucker. She said, I know.
Oh,
I was like,
I did not see that. You need to DM me that. I haven't seen it. That's wild.
Yeah, I'll find it and send it to you. Yeah, she just straight out said it. I mean, she was like, they're doing that. There is vampires.
So
it was good.
So So Scott, I'm gonna kind of quiz Scott a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Scott, do you know the first commandment from Noah? As the first commandment, as soon as he got off the ark, what was his first commandment that he was not to do? Jess, do you know this?
Uh-oh.
I should know it. I'm ashamed.
I didn't know it till like 2 weeks ago. Don't drink blood.
Oh.
Wow.
That was the first commandment from God to Noah. You can eat meat, but not anything with the blood still in it that still has its lifeblood. So basically, don't drink blood.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
See, because I remember that he gave the okay to start eating meat because when I was in parochial school and I decided to become a vegetarian, I got harassed by my Christian teacher about not eating meat. And I said, that's what I said. Well, they didn't eat meat before Noah.
Right. I heard that, but and that's okay. But yeah, that don't drink don't drink blood.
Yeah.
So the question is so that had if God had to say don't do it, then that means people were doing it probably before Noah, and then they obviously continued to do it then.
Right.
But man, go ahead.
So now that makes me think of have you seen, and I had issues getting through it, but did you see the movie Noah?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it, but talk to me. I'm listening.
So one of the things in the movie that they were trying to portray was the fact that the people that were following Cain were the meat eaters. They were the blood, and they drank the blood and did all of that stuff. Whereas Noah's family were the vegetarians. They were, salt of the earth, and
right.
And that's where the line was drawn. Was that was the main difference, is that once they started eating the meat and drinking the blood, they were the forsaken evil ones, along with everything else that they were doing.
Is that the Russell Crowe one?
Yeah.
The last one to come out?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of interesting. I've heard there's a lot of interesting twists to that. Now I don't think that, but that is. I don't think that, but that I think that they're trying to sprinkle some things in there. I guess I don't know. What do you think?
So one of the things that again, kind of looking at the ideas and the theories, one of the things that I had thought about was many people have stated that most of the Sasquatch that they've run into that are good, and I had this conversation with my daughter the other day too, but a lot of times they're picking berries, they're eating berries and shrubs and fruits and that kind of thing, and very seldomly do they see them actually becoming violent towards, you have heard stories of them going after deer and elk and stuff, but
right.
I almost wonder if so how do I put this? Basically cannibalization. So if you think about, even any wild animals who state that, and I'm digressing a little bit.
It's okay.
Wild animals that are going after food, and they end up taking and biting a human and eating a human. They have to put the bears down. They have to put the lions down or whatever, because they say that once they get the taste of human flesh, there's just no going back. There's no satisfying.
Right.
I wondered, based on watching that movie and thinking about the blood and the evil that comes with it and the satiation that they want with the human blood and the animals, if the Sasquatch and the dog man, if there's that line that's drawn.
I think you're onto something. I don't have the exact answer, obviously. I think you might be onto something because in our Christian faith, what was the remission of sin? The covering, or the small covering, was blood, was sacrifice, was a living creature, was a lamb. That was a small covering. But what was the ultimate sacrifice and our ultimate covering was the blood of Christ.
Amen.
Well, what did Christ become? Christ became a human.
Right.
Christ became a human. He was a perfect human, so he was sinless. So sinless human blood.
Right.
And Christ was the only one that could become sinless. So I just think that you're onto something there. Does that make sense? Like, there's obviously something in the blood. We
Right.
know this.
Right.
We know this. And in our Christian theology, it's all through it. You know, the power of the blood. And I believe it. And amen. But what I'm trying to say is like, there is something in that we don't know, obviously. And there's just, because what did, it talks about, Abel's blood cries out to me. All this stuff. They say that literally, if they take your blood and go all the way across the world and they do something to it at one place, it knows all the way across the world. I've heard that being said. So who knows? Honestly, who knows what blood actually is?
It's it would make you think that the blood, is the life.
Yes.
Blood is the life.
Blood is the life. That's correct. That's correct.
If you drink blood out of something, it's going to die.
That's absolutely. Right. And it's just, I don't know. It's just an interesting concept. But I think, like you said, Jess, it's like that line that's crossed between them. It's like, okay, when you eat that human, you drink that human blood, that line is crossed and there's no going back for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just an interesting concept. I hadn't never thought about that.
I mean, because again, my daughter listens to all those, horror murder
Right.
stories and stuff. So, and she goes, "Well, they say the same thing about cannibals."
Oh yeah,
just
bone tomahawk.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
There we go.
Oh, what a movie. God forbid.
That's a wild.
Wasn't ready for that movie when I watched
it. And I think that these cryptids don't just eat us because they're mad at us or because they're hungry. I believe, me personally, that it is a form of blasphemy against God to eat his creation.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Because they know they're an abomination. They don't have forgiveness. So for them to do that, they are taking our blood into them. It's all wicked,
as a
dark,
spit in the face to God. Yeah, as a spit in the face to God. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's absolutely could be
there's
it.
A lot of people. Have you heard about the black boxes in the national forests?
No, I have not. I am ignorant to this.
I've heard something. I can't remember what it was.
They're releasing. Okay, there's black boxes that they're placing in national forests out in the middle of nowhere. One guy came upon one of these black boxes, and he was off the trail. He decided, I'm not staying to the trail. I'm just going to go out through the trees and rough it. And so he comes across this black box, and he says it has no corners, no seams, and it has like a really weird locking mechanism on it. Now, the weird thing is there was a lady, and there's a lot of reports of these, but there was a lady that was on her way down the road, and I can't remember, something happened with her child or something. So she pulled over on the side of the road, and I can't remember what she was doing, either feeding her child or changing a diaper or something. And one of these military trucks comes by with one of these black boxes on it, and she says they pull over to the side of the road, and it's a semi, and it has a military escort. She said while they're out there, she said the men don't look scared, but they look concerned. And she said there was a loud bang on it, like something tried to knock it open. And she said then there was like a low, like growl, she said that like vibrated the windows on everything. Her car windows were shaking and stuff. And one of the guards jumped up on the side of the truck and stuck something into a key panel and then swiped it with a card. And there was a sound of like oxygen or something been shot into the tank. Then all that stopped, and then they continued their drive.
So these boxes are massive. They're not like a little black box.
Yeah.
They're large.
Yeah, they're huge.
Okay.
So what are they? My question is, what are they containing out there, or what are they letting go out there?
You know what they are? They're black bears. Okay. That's all it is. Don't worry about it.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's just a bear. My gosh.
This bear went in the bird and ate the candy store up, so now it's got to live in a black box.
That's right.
It's Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. Man, who knows? Who knows? Just at this point with all that stuff, I believe, I'm one of those. I believe that all the chimeras and stuff that we have seen in Greek mythology and all that, and even later mythologies and stuff, that all that stuff is a romanticizing of things that were, and I think they're trying to make it again. Who knows what they're making? Who knows what they're trying to make?
Right.
I mean, and with CERN and everything.
Oh, dude, I talk about Oak Ridge. They're doing that at Oak Ridge. CERN is just the big one that everybody knows about. They are doing that or trying to at Oak Ridge. They are trying to, because I'm in a field where I make glasses. Okay. So I get to talk to everybody. So I get to talk to scientists. I get to talk to carpenters. I get to talk to everybody. Everybody needs glasses. Well, I get to talk to people who make these experiments or make I say these experiments, but I get to talk to not necessarily the engineers, because they're crazy. If you ever known a crazy engineer, you know what I'm talking about. They're crazy. But the guys who like make the experiments. So like the engineer says, I want to experiment this, make me this. The guys who actually like put that experimental equipment together, like they're like, this is crazy stuff. We are pulling at the strings of the fabric of reality here. So, and that's what they're doing up at Oak Ridge. Mm-hmm. And who else, who knows what else?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we probably don't even want to know.
That's my thing. Is I don't know. You ever see that movie The Shape of Water?
No.
Jess, have you seen it?
It's on my list. I have not watched it yet.
Scott, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, if it's on your list, I don't want to ruin it, Jess.
Go ahead.
But okay.
I still like watching them anyways.
Okay, cool. So basically what it is they found a merman of some sort. They found this hybrid merman thing. And they basically go through and they're trying to like talk to it and figure it out and all this. And this lady goes in, and she's a janitor. But anyway, the whole point of the story is she falls in love with the merman, and they do their own little thing. And basically he gives her his seed, and basically they do their little thing. And then she, at the very end of the movie, pops the gills and can breathe underwater too now. And it's I always thought it's like they're mixed. They're mixing human DNA with whatever they want.
Right.
And they're coming up with abominations of some sort. And who knows what they're coming up with.
Right. I mean, even some stuff I've seen on TV is where dolphins try to mate with human females. I mean, they literally try to mate with them.
Yes.
So back in the days, years and years and years ago, when say people swam in the nude, and the dolphin could easily have a chance. So
that would be, I don't know. That would be hard to tell my therapist. I got
Flipper just
I'm
wasn't.
sorry. That's terrible.
Lambo.
If anybody's ever been assaulted by a dolphin, I'm sorry.
It would kill you.
It would.
Trust me. I went down that rabbit hole. I was
God.
I heard a story and I went, what?
Don't look on Jess's computer. Oh God.
No, well, I heard a story.
You
government's looking at her right now.
With animals. I know.
No, I want to hear this. I want to hear what Jess's story is.
Let me clear this up before the rumors fly.
Right.
No, I heard a story when I was because I was watching. I don't know if you ever seen the series The Boys.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you're aware of then the Deep, the character The Deep from The Boys.
A little bit. Okay. I know of The Boys. I don't know The Boys, but I know of it.
The Deep is the Aquaman of The Boys. So I was watching an interview and they started to talk about, they were making fun of him and they were talking about dolphins and how disgusting dolphins were. And up until that moment in my life, I was a fan of dolphins. So I went down that rabbit hole and I ended up finding about the scientist that was doing experiments with dolphins and trying to teach them how to talk. And then everything else that led on after that. And then how they would get high on puffer fish and other things that they would do. And at that point, dolphins, they're on my do not come near me list. They are.
I am not aware of this. Now I am intrigued. I am rarely intrigued. And
I'm going to say, if you go down that rabbit hole, I'm warning you now.
You're just warning. Okay. I'll never look at Flipper the same.
No,
right.
You could never. You could end up with a rash making a 2 a.m. trip to get some Gold Bond. You missed the animal.
Oh God. I'm sorry. I might have to go down that rabbit hole just because I am that weird. It's okay. I've been down many rabbit holes, but I haven't been down that one. And it's like, that sounds interesting.
You'd be right there with me because I couldn't look away.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I mean, the Fallen didn't just mess with land animals. You know that. I mean,
right.
They messed with everything they could. So
there was a fisherman that filmed mermaids.
Yes.
And while he was doing it, they came onto his boat and took his video equipment and everything, and he continued to do it, and he's missing now.
I mean,
were you watching the movie Siren?
They talk.
No, I haven't watched that one. Is it good?
It's they have a scene in there similar to that.
We you know what, Mike?
Wow.
Mike, you know what sirens were, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you know that, yeah. So sirens were mermaids, or back then. And again, Scott, we talk about it. Right. Thousands of years old. This is not something new.
No.
So
it's beautiful voices.
Beautiful voice. Yeah.
Right.
That lure, the audible, that thing that we talked about, that their vocal cords. Yep. There's something about it.
There it is. It seems like it's everywhere too. If you look at all these creatures, just like today, I had a lady send me an encounter in about Bigfoot, and she said that when Bigfoot had walked up, it started making a chirping sound, not like what you would expect a large animal to make, but it was making a chirping sound, like it was trying to communicate with her. She felt like. So I mean, there's no telling what kind of communications or what kind of.
Oh yeah.
There's a guy that does the audio for me. He's very talented at what he does, and he worked for a good place. And the audio that we're receiving on our EVPs and stuff, I'm not hearing in the field. I'm only hearing it when we go back and review the footage. He said the audio that he's capturing, where some of this stuff is saying mama, some of it is saying, why did I have to die? Some of it sounds like conversations between things out there with each other. But he said the scale that they're on, the frequency, is either higher or lower than what we're able to perceive. And we're catching it on our equipment. And the viewers are able to hear it, but I don't hear it. Everybody's like, you need to get out of there. Did you hear that? And I'm like, hear what?
That's like hear what is yeah, scary.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's what
It's
I
right
truly
behind you.
believe. That I think I said it on our last live. I truly believe that whatever these creatures are that you're doing, they have the ability, they have the liberty or the freedom to go into these wavelengths of light and wavelengths of sound that we are not privy to. They have that privilege, we do not. So whatever that is, and I think that is parts of the dimensionality, that like the different dimension, like they can do.
Right.
They can be in that light, they can be in that sound frequency, but we can't.
Right.
But they can still see us, and they can still do that, and they're still physical. We just can't see them or hear them.
Right.
And that may be like a little bit more of a
the
scientific
adaptive
explanation.
Right. And just like people say,
Like the
you know,
adaptive
everybody has blurry pictures and photographs and stuff, but they can manipulate that. I believe they can make it a blurry picture where you do not get the evidence you need.
Right. So there's a video that I want to re-put out there. It's called The Anatomy of a Blob Squatch. And that was one that me and Dad did together. And I videoed Dad 20, 30 feet away. And Dad got behind a tree stump and looked at me and then got back up. And I could see my dad clear as day. Clear as day. Looked him in the eyes. But I'm trying to film it. You can't see anything. And Dad has a white face, and he's like me. He was like me at the time, bald head. And you could barely see him. Barely. And all you could see was the difference in the shade on camera. And it's like, and I guess that's, I feel bad for these poor people, like, man, I saw it. It's on camera. I've got the greatest picture of Bigfoot ever.
Right.
And you look at it and it's like, that's crap, man. I can't see jack crap.
Yeah.
And
what am I supposed to see?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't, and this is my personal belief, I don't think there's ever going to be hardcore video evidence of one ever. Like it's going to be, unless they capture one, which, as in, if they capture it, the FBI is going to take it from you. But like, if you ever kill one, God forbid, the FBI is showing up way before the news does.
Right.
So, why haven't we got the body?
Just like I was talking to Mike the other night, I told him that I think, like the Patterson film, which is the clearest film we've got,
right?
They weren't used to what that was. I didn't think back then maybe they didn't know how to manipulate the camera to where they got that good of a thing. But as technology grew, they grew with the technology, and they realized, hey, they can get an actual picture of us. Let's blur it out.
Right.
I mean, if they can do infrasound, they can do anything.
And
absolutely, Scott. Absolutely. There's some theories that that was allowed for some reason, that one film was allowed, and that they were actually, that there are teams of people that go and take care of groups of Sasquatch that are misbehaving, let's say, and that they were allowed to film that one. That's a theory that I've heard, that I may buy, may not, but I've heard that and that's about the only reason why you got that clear of a female Bigfoot on camera.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
it makes sense to me, because I mean,
but I don't know. I mean,
and even the one guy
internet rumors.
That has.
Say it again, bud.
Well, and the one guy I told you that has all the theories. One of his theories is sometimes older equipment is better than the electronic equipment we use.
Right.
Mm-hmm. because it's
because
more
it's easier to
analog.
manipulate the newer stuff. He said,
I believe
because,
that.
if you think about it, if we're getting our technology from the fallen angels,
Mm-hmm.
they know how to manipulate the stuff we have, the advancements that we have. But it's pretty hard to go back and manipulate a Polaroid.
Yeah,
The
that makes
negative.
sense. That's
You know.
right. The negative, yes, the capturing the negative. That's hard to manipulate that bad boy.
Yes,
So,
Polaroid was like the hardest thing for them to do anything to. I agree.
because literally you'd have to cut and paste that stuff.
Right.
We say cut and paste on the thing though, but you literally have to cut and paste something out. Yeah.
Right.
And then try to retake a negative and all that of that. So
Yeah, even ghosts, people that ghost hunt, which are demons to me, not ghosts, but they literally get a clearer picture with a Polaroid than they do any day with the digital. It just captures it, and it's already captured. They can't do nothing to it.
yeah, that makes sense to me. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Mike, what
I
else
know,
you got on your sheet?
Part 3.
Oh, we will never get to it. We will never. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's going to be a part 3. Yeah, we'll never
love
get
it.
to everything. I did have one question. I did have one though I want to get to tonight before we'll call it quits here pretty soon. I've had you over 2 hours, but your dad said something that I even highlighted it. It really caught my attention right here. He was talking about whenever he was out in the woods that he would he would rebuke these creatures, and I do that too. And he made a reference to something that really caught my attention, is where he said that he found out that he had a protection area of about 300 feet.
Okay,
that really caught my attention.
So yeah,
I was wondering.
Yeah, so that was something he'd always tell me too. He had a certain protection thing where they'd still follow him, they'd still mess with him, you could still hear that 45-degree angle. You know how they trail you? That 45-degree angle, he'd still have that, but they never would show themselves anymore. They would let you know that they were there, and they do the wood knock and all that crap, but they would stay a certain amount away. And it's like you said, it's like that hedge of protection. It doesn't ever keep them fully away, like you said, but yeah, like you said, like a little bubble. Now, did they get close? I mean, once you allow them in and once you invite them to come in, does that give them permission to like follow you but only stay in that buffer zone? I don't know. But what's your thoughts on that 300 feet? Like, why does that really stick in your brain?
The just offhand, the one thing that I think about, and it's kind of a feeling too that I get, is I agree with your dad 100% whenever he says, if you've never had an encounter, are you sure you want to? Because I don't think people know what they're actually going out and what they're asking for. Because sometimes it doesn't just stop in the woods. It can affect your whole family. But, I think about, why was there like you said, a bubble? And the only thing I can think of is in the Bible, and this is a theory, it's just a theory. He talks about, that the demons were cast to the dry places. The dry places are the places where there's not people. What if these areas that we're exploring are the dry places? And yeah, we're like a candle walking in the darkness. The light goes so far, but we're still in their home.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's a good way to put it. I've never thought about that. A candle in the darkness. Like our light shines, but it can only go so far.
Right.
And
they stay back behind that where the light is. If you move forward, they back up.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't know, man.
It's kind of like,
huh?
It's kind of like we go, where they're at. We're going to where they were cast.
They were cast.
But you know, we're and then again, I mean, you can theorize a lot more on it. You can say, okay, so a Christian goes there, we shine like God, like a candle. Are the people that were taken, were they Christian? I would love to know the percentage of non-Christians to Christians that have been abducted.
I think that's a I think that I personally think, and this is again Travis's, you know, annually derived theory. It is like when it comes to abductions, I don't think that they can abduct Christians. I just don't think they can. Now, I may be wrong. I pray that I'm not. I don't want, dear Lord, I don't want to be abducted. But I really think that there's just something, you know, L.A. Marzulli's talked about it. You know, all his the people that have talked to him, it's like once you speak that name of Jesus, like they go away. They go away. There's something about it.
Yes.
So,
and we're covered in the blood of Christ. If you're a Christian, you're covered in the blood of Christ, and you got the armor of God. So it's really, I think it's hard for them to get to you if you are a true Christian.
I truly believe too. I truly believe that you know there is a, you know, it says that we are the the temple of the Holy Spirit. So that means that there's a place made for the Holy Spirit in us. You know, make that make sense, but there's a place for us. Well, if that place is not filled, then it's empty and can be filled with something else. We know this by, you know, people being possessed, you know, during Jesus's time.
Right.
Now, the people that would argue and say, oh, that's just crud, there's no such thing as demons and all that. And I was like, well, read your Bible, number one thing. And number two, Jesus was talking to them, and they want to possess things.
Right.
So here's the crazy thing. I was like, okay, Jesus tells that man in the cemetery, and I can't remember the whole thing. I can't remember where he was, but he tells him, you know, he's telling the large amount of demons. It's not just one, like a large amount of demons to get out of him. And that, well, they asked him some really weird dialogue and questions. It's like, have you come to torment us before our time? Which means that they know there's a time.
Right.
Which is again just interesting. They know who he is. They know they have a time. And then they ask this weird thing. They ask permission to leave and to be put into pigs.
Right.
Okay. Here's my thing. Jesus grants their wish. Why? It's just an interesting thing. Like, why didn't he say no? But they went into the pigs, and then the pigs
did run over the cliff and die, right?
Yes, they did. Which is still just an interesting. It's just an interesting thing to me. Like why did Jesus say yes and do it?
There's a purpose to that and a reason,
right? That we may not be privy to.
Right. What do you think about this theory about that? What if Jesus threw the spirits into the swine drowned themselves under the ocean, right? They ran off into the sea. What did Jesus walk on to show that he had authority over? He walked on the water that drowned the demons.
That's a good point.
I've thought about that before.
Yeah.
He's showing that the water, you know, the water drowns you, but I have authority over it. I can walk on it.
And I believe those storms, by the way, you know, that the disciples were upset about and all that, those are supernatural storms. Those are supernatural.
Right.
Those weren't natural, just the wind and waves. No, it was supernatural. Because these guys were seasoned, you know, seamen. They had been on the sea before. And they were afraid for their lives. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think he was not only commanding power over that, but he was commanding the power over the power that was making that happen.
Right.
And what was so cool about it is he didn't scream at it or nothing. He just said, "Shh." you know,
Yes. Yeah,
just
man.
so easily took care of, you know, like that's nothing, you know.
But
Yes, I do.
That's my father.
the greatest
That
thing is one day we'll all know what everything was.
right. And before I leave, you know, I do want to say that the one thing that that God has had to deal with me in this is he's taken my earthly father from me. And you know, we can all conjecture the reasons and why and all that stuff. And I miss dad tremendously. But now I have had to trust my heavenly father and let him be my dad. And that has been hard for me.
Yes.
That has been hard because I am how do I put this? I am rebellious. So everybody talks about my dad being a sweetheart and kind and all that. I am not that person. I will fight you. I'm just not. And
Right.
God's dealing with me on that. And I went through a long time where I didn't trust. I didn't trust God. I didn't trust anybody. And I'm having to really break through that and really just trust. And I don't know why I said that. I've just like I said, but
Yeah.
I've been having
Oh,
to
it makes
let
sense.
him be my dad.
I've been on that journey, you know. When I
So,
lost my dad,
I think we all
I
have.
Yeah.
I went through a hard time, and I just, you know, I prayed and prayed for him to be healed, and it didn't happen. But I believed, and I was like, why, you know? And then one day it came to me. I was down at the lake actually when it hit me. I was praying. It's like that voice came and it said, "I did give you what you wanted. You wanted your dad healed. I just didn't heal him the way you wanted.
You wanted.
I
Yeah.
healed him where he never hurt again, where he will live forever and never know pain again."
Right.
Mhm.
And I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't think of it that way. It just came to me. And I've had a million people ask me, are you going to start investigating cryptids? Everybody's asking me, do you think Travis is going to go out in the field?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to go out in the field. I'm going to hunt and fish and all that stuff. Um, I have no desire to investigate cryptids, and the reason why is, um, you know, Dad already did it for me. I have got hours and hours and hours of back trail cam.
Right. And every show you've put out, you have always said, I am not going to ever investigate. And you stood strong on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's my thing, and it's just a promise I've made to Dad, promise I made to my wife, and a promise I made to myself.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. Is the temptation there?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, and say the temptation's not there. But I say when I say I have no desire, I have no spiritual desire to. My flesh wants to, absolutely, but no, I don't have any. I'm not going to. But
Travis, we'll just let Mike do that for us.
That's right, Mike. You're a better man than I.
I'm telling you.
Well, I've still got some bait left, so we're good for a little while.
I heard that.
That night he got lost in the woods was a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Mom wanted me to tell you too, Travis. She was the little girl, you know, that went through all that at my granny's house. And your dad had said something that really caught my mom's attention the other night. She wanted me to tell you your dad was 100% correct. Get your kids a dog.
Yes. You know, I there's still things that I'll read out of here that's like I didn't know that Dad thought that. And I know it comes as surprise to people. It's like Dad told me a lot of things, and I think Dad told me everything, but I'm reading that like, well, daggum. And speaking of the dog, so forgive me here. I've got my puppy dog right here. He is not he has not left my side, and that's my dog.
What's the breed?
He's a golden retriever named Bo, and both what really about killed me when dad died. So I'd already lost my first dog named Cooper. I lost him in March, And oh, it killed me. God, it killed me. Sorry, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be that guy. So here's my two dogs. So there was Cooper and Tyson. Cooper died in March. Tyson died 2 weeks after Dad died, and I was a wreck. Let me just tell you, when I mean a wreck, I sat out in the backyard looking at the stars, thinking of like, well, I got nothing, Never, you just have bad thoughts. And I looked at my wife, and again, I didn't know that Dad had written that part in that book. And I looked at my wife, and I looked at her, and I may have been having an alcoholic beverage or two, and which I don't recommend when you're sad. Don't do that.
No.
Yeah, don't do that. But I looked at my wife at the time, and I said, get me a dog. I said, I want a red golden retriever. I wanted a boy, and I wanted Bo. And she did. And I love this. And this dog has, as stupid as that sounds, like this dog and Jesus is about the only thing getting me through the first 6 months.
Hey, it's understandable.
But man,
I understand completely.
But I think like you said, like your grandmother said, you get a dog, and those things, they can feel things that you can't feel. They can sense things that you can't sense. And man, they'll protect you with everything. They love you.
Yeah, just don't get a standard poodle.
Those things are mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story on that real quick, Travis.
Yeah, I'm listening.
We done an
Protection
experiment.
dog.
We had an experiment. So we done a daylight in, we call it dark out. That's where we walked 2 miles into our investigative area we go to. There's nothing around on the walk, and you go totally into nowhere. And we took a standard poodle with us, my sister's poodle, to see how he reacted, to see if we could catch something, if he would alert us. When we first got there on film, the dog was fine. He was running around acting like, his normal self. And when nighttime hit, the dog was okay until into the thing, he started acting really scared. He was just running in circles on his leash, almost tripping you, trying to stay between your legs. We had an encounter that night, a pretty bad encounter. The dog was pretty nervous. The next day, my sister had to take her to the vet, the dog, and the dog died of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
The vet said that dog was
That's crazy.
Vet said the dog was more stressed than any dog they've ever seen stressed. Something had totally stressed her completely out.
Yeah.
Well,
so there was something down there that dog knew. Yeah.
So I think, man,
it was bad.
Yeah. That's crazy, but I definitely won't get a standard poodle. But yeah, but it still leads to the point. Those things, they can fit. They feel something's up.
Oh yeah.
So
no doubt.
Right. And if you have one that starts walking around on its hind legs, just give it to your neighbor.
Yeah. Like, hey.
And Travis, your dad was the one that came up with the idea about putting the camera backwards, right?
Yeah, I had never seen anybody do it before him.
Right.
So
everybody's doing it now, but yeah, I think he was the originator of that. And didn't he catch a white Sasquatch behind him? Because I've seen that. That's crazy looking.
Yeah, so that video was captured up in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So that was caught on Turkey Pin Trail, or one of the offshoots of that. Up on basically there is Metcalf Bottoms, and then you have a few ridges. It's up on top of this ridge down before you get to Metcalf Bottoms, and basically he's walking down the side. He's walking down that from that ridge, walking back toward the car. I say back toward the car, but it's like, he's gone up, done his thing, turned around. So he's walking this way, and you've got the trail on the side here, and yeah, that daggum joker sticks its head up and then sticks back, and that's like the best in my, again, I'm biased. That's one of the best Bigfoot film I've ever seen.
Right. That's what I was saying. Yeah, it was amazing.
And that was captured on a Sony Handycam, and he had it, and basically is bouncing up and down the best way he can, and that's captured with like 480p or something like that.
Right.
Could you imagine if we had it on 4K? Gosh.
Oh yeah. But you can actually see the head raise up and go back down. I mean, it's it ain't something like a wind blowing up light plants or anything. You can see it and see the face.
Yeah, you can see the face and all that, and the back trail method. I had never seen anybody else come up with it, so I'm gonna claim it for my dad. Genius stuff. And the bacon grease wrapped and the packing tape wrapped around the tree to catch hair samples. That was like, do y'all ever hear about that? Yeah, we're gonna be getting. I'm gonna shamelessly plug this. By the way, we're gonna be getting into the Truth Denied, and that we're gonna start reading that and getting way deep in the weeds, because we did just finish up the Sasquatch Awareness Project in the last reading.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the Truth Denied, and then after we get into the Truth Denied, then we'll get into the Nephilim Among Us. So the reason why it's like, hey, let's do Sasquatch. Then let's do scientific DNA evidence for the Nephilim, and then we'll get into and then we'll get and say what we believe they are and all that stuff.
Right.
So that's the goal, and then after that we'll just kind of we'll do that. I'm trying to make a schedule of it, like try to do readings maybe on Wednesdays and then do the lost tapes on Sundays. It really just depends on what people want, and at the same time what I can crank out, because I'm just a regular dude, got working 40 hours and trying to keep the wife and kids happy and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on and talk about them.
Man, I love it
once you get them read and everything, because
especially
they're so
the
exciting.
Nephilim.
And
yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. I love hanging out with you guys. I'm just hanging out with my friends on the couch. I love it.
Yes.
That's how we do it. We just try to make it, to sit back, enjoy, talk, try to learn, and share experiences. It's not done enough, and I get frustrated because I see people try to say, like, I'm doing what Scott Carpenter done. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You might be in the same area, but there will never be another Scott Carpenter. Carpenter set the bar. That's my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
That I'm honored that you guys said that. Thank you so much. I want to also say this. I didn't. I am just honored that I'm honored to be able to take care of this legacy. I'm honored to be able to have this responsibility, and I know that. How do I even put this? I don't. It's amazing to hear people say this, but to me, he was just dad in a good way, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, hey, it's just my dad being my dad, and I think I had a pretty cool dad.
From talking to you, your dad couldn't have left it in better hands.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
And thank you for carrying on with the story so it'll live on. Thank you.
I will. That's my goals. I'm not going to let this die. I'm not going to let this die. I'm not going to let and if it may be my way of reconnecting with dad and spending time with dad in his books, so be it. But I'm going to be hanging out with everybody else. But but my thing is I'm grateful. I'm grateful for I'm grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for what everybody says, and I'm grateful that I had a dad that had the cojones enough to do it the way he did it.
Right.
And you know, there's just times I look back and I'm amazed that it's like, man, Dad, you like that was pretty daggum smart, Dad. That was pretty cool that you did that. You had the wherewithal to do this. And then to have, I don't know, it's just pretty wild. It's just pretty wild. I'm very, very blessed. So thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
No, not a problem.
Yeah. Oh man. Now Jesse, you got to send me that dolphin stuff.
All right.
Kidding.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, I gotta end it with a little lightheartedness there.
There you go. There you go.
We can't be super serious all the time.
No.
That's right. Well, Travis, we're going to let you run. I know you got family and stuff. It's getting late and everything. You probably got things you need to do. As always, you're welcome back here anytime.
Man, I love it. I love hanging out with you guys. I really, really do. So, all right, y'all be good. Hey, God bless.
God bless.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
Yeah. Good night. God bless. Man, I tell you what, I think we could have went on and on and on because I don't know if y'all know, but I went through everything last night. And I mean, I have this little notebook here is full. We didn't even touch tonight. And I still got 2 more pages on here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Another show, right? And that stuff is not even on the new books he's going to put out. All that is still on the Awareness Project. So we still have a lot to talk about with Travis.
And I think you can still get the books at Amazon, I think.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, they're still available. So,
yeah, everybody, if you can, go get one. Support Travis. He's doing a great thing. And again, I'll reiterate what I said. Many may try to do what his dad done, but his dad set the bar. And that's my opinion. That's what I believe. And I believe that he was way ahead of his time in this. And that's what I believe.
And I agree.
And I'm not probably going to watch anything with dolphins in it anymore. There goes my trip.
All those people swimming with dolphins too.
There goes my trip to the ocean.
I'm telling you, people just taking videos of their friends out in the ocean, and the dolphin comes up and just does what it wants to do or tries to do. You know, it ain't set up in a movie or nothing. It's actual people filming. Yeah, dolphins are pretty smart, I think.
Oh.
It sounds like it. I mean, just from what I'm speculating.
Right.
It's probably not something I want to swim with. Probably maybe worse than a shark.
Oh, Lord, Mike.
I'm just...
I mean, me personally, if I'm speculating right, I would rather be 8.
By Megalodon.
Yeah. A school of piranhas, whatever.
Oh, man.
Well, Scott, I'm going to let you walk us out of here, and then Jesse, I'm going to let you. I tell you what, I need a back stretch for sure tonight.
Oh, I'm telling you, I've got to get rid of this couch and get something else.
I can talk with him forever.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we'll have part 3. There's just too much to talk about. First of all, I'd like to thank Travis Carpenter for coming on the show and taking care of his dad's legacy. It's really interesting. If y'all go watch his channel, you'll enjoy all of it when he's reading the stories out of the books and some of the videos his dad did. Praying that Hunter gets home as soon as possible, hopefully before Christmas. And thank you all for all your support. Over.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here and supporting the channel. I'm very grateful that I was able to be on tonight and actually talk with Travis. And thank you, Travis, for being on. Don't swim with the dolphins, and everybody be safe. Over.
Yeah, Mike, over.
Over. As always, I want to thank everybody for your support and everything. And Hunter, I love and miss you so very much, and I can't wait to see you again. There's not a day or a minute or a second that goes by that I don't long to be with you. You are the best part of me, and you'll always be the best part of me. Travis was an excellent guest, guys. Go out, read, buy his books, support him. I found out the other night whenever I listened to him on his YouTube page when I was doing all this investigating and just listening, it is so addictive. I mean, you are ready for part 2, 3, 4, 5, and you continue. And I mean, it's something you can just stick in your ear too if you're out working or whatever and listen, because he narrates so well. And there is so much information there. I watched just an 11-minute video, and it was so packed full of information. It was amazing, and it really hit home with me because I share a lot of the same things that they went through, and that just to me clarifies that these things are connected. I think we'll probably have him back as many times as he'll come back, because I think he's just he's full of knowledge. I enjoy him. He's a good Christian man. He's easy to talk with. He feels like family. He fits in here.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. I mean, if we allow ourselves to work with the devil for numbers, then who can believe whatever else we say? And above all, you can lose everything in this world, people. Everything. Money, houses, cars, family members. I lost one 2 weeks ago. Had a hard 2 weeks. We had a viewing. I lost my aunt. Then we had services. Then we had court. And then I had Thanksgiving. It can be hard. But God will never leave you.
No.
He'll be there for you. And number 2, the one thing nobody can take from you is your integrity. Do what's right, not what everybody else is doing. Yep. And until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. Thank you for supporting us. Smash the like button, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.